What if heartbreak isn't the end of your story, but the beginning of a whole new skill set? Because when a relationship ends, it doesn't just hurt, it pulls us into waves of loneliness, panic, grief, self-doubt, even financial fear. And most of us think these feelings mean something is wrong with us, but they're not flaws, they're signals, each one pointing to a skill we can grow. Heartbreak feels like collapse. You can't sleep. You replay conversations in your mind. You panic about the future. But here's the truth. Heartbreak isn't a diagnosis. It's a call to deepen your psychological capacities. The same way muscles ache when you've been stretched, your psyche aches when life is demanding skills you haven't fully built yet. And sometimes skills that once felt strong begin to falter in new contexts. Maybe you were steady until the loss of intimacy shook your belonging. Maybe you believed in yourself until rejection rattled your confidence. Skills are not once and for all. They live in relationship with the demands of life. And heartbreak is life demanding more of us. I'm a psychotherapist, an executive coach, a clinical supervisor, and an award-winning researcher. I hold a degree in biochemistry, where I specialised in the biochemistry of mood and behaviour. For over 2 decades, I've had the privilege of working with more than 1,200 clients, and here's what I've learned. I most enjoy working with people who feel their struggles might break them. People who fear they won't survive the weight of heartbreak, trauma, or despair. Because in those moments, the work becomes existential and it matters profoundly. That's why I created the Lifelong Capacities Map. It's a developmental framework that shows the skills required not just to overcome psychological struggles, but to thrive at the highest levels of leadership and to live out the deepest truths of the wisdom literature. The map is comprehensive. It shows the skill set required to overcome the 1,000 symptoms listed across the 160 diagnoses of the DSM-5. Psychiatry has very little to say about relationships, yet relationships are at the root of every psychological difficulty humans face. It shows the skills that underpin high performance in leadership and the skills that echo through spiritual traditions that have guided humanity for centuries. That's why it can be trusted. In this video, we'll cover 3 things. First, why heartbreak brings such powerful waves of loneliness, panic, and longing. Second, how the Lifelong Capacities Map reframes these signals as skills waiting to be built. And third, I'll share the story of a client, a story of heartbreak, recovery, and growth across months of work. Through her journey, you'll see how heartbreak can be transformed into growth. And I'll give you a practical resource to help you do the same. 1. Why heartbreak overwhelms us. When a bond breaks, our attachment system fires like an alarm. The brain registers separation, much like physical pain. Cortisol floods our system. The nervous system spins into panic, and sleep fragments into restless early wakening. It's no wonder heartbreak feels unbearable. It's not weakness, it's biology, psychology, and relationship all colliding. And yet, these same signals are invitations. Loneliness calls us to strengthen our capacity for connection. Panic calls us to refine our capacity for emotional regulation. Grief calls us to anchor our self-worth. Each signal is asking, will you deepen your skills here? 2. The Lifelong Capacities Map. The Lifelong Capacities Map is a developmental atlas of the psyche. 12 capacities, 48 competencies, each described across a behavioural scale. It's so individual that there are more unique combinations than the number of people who will ever live. When heartbreak hits, it lights up our map. Loneliness shines a light on relational capacity. Panic points toward emotional and somatic capacities. Grief challenges identity. Longing ignites purpose. Financial strain stresses behavioural capacity. Self-doubt tests metacognitive capacity. And fragile hope awakens symbolic existential capacity. Each pain isn't a verdict, it's a compass, pointing to the skill we now need to grow. Here's a case study. This is Sofia's story. Let me introduce you to Sofia. She was 34 when her relationship ended. At first, she described herself as shattered. Nights were the hardest. She would wake at 3 a.m, heart racing, panic flooding her chest. Days were heavy with self-doubt. She kept asking herself, how could I not see this coming? Can I ever trust myself ever again? In our early sessions, the focus was survival. We worked with 1.2, adaptive emotional processing, learning to notice her panic, breathe through it, and give it shape in words, rather than letting it spiral. By month 2, she began journaling trustworthy decisions she'd made. That was growth in 3.3 self-efficacy, reinforced by 10.4 reflective decision-making. Slowly, she noticed self-doubt wasn't the full story. By month 4, her grief deepened into recognition. She wasn't broken, she'd loved and lost. She was grieving because she had loved well. This reframing built 3.4 healthy self-worth. By month 6, loneliness had shifted. She was able to take small relational risks again. A dinner with friends, a new class. Each step was rebuilding her competency for relational capacity. Heartbreak hadn't ended her. It had grown her, step by step, skill by skill. 4. The PsycheScription series. After a breakup, it's easy to feel scattered. One moment lonely, the next panicky, then grieving, then doubting ourselves. It can feel like everything is breaking at once. That's why I've created something special to go alongside this video. A 7-part PsycheScription series. Each PsycheScription is a short, guided practice, 5 to 10 minutes, designed to meet one of the most common signals people face after heartbreak. Loneliness is a practice for connection, the skills of empathy and belonging. Panic and fear, a practice for emotional self-regulation. Grief and sadness, a practice for self-worth, even in loss. Sexual longing, a practice for creativity and life purpose, so it becomes fuel for growth. Financial strain, a practice for adaptive risk-taking and planning. Self-doubt, a practice for self-belief. And those fragile moments of hope that keep you going, a practice for meaning-making in suffering. Each one helps us transform that raw feeling into a skill. For example, loneliness becomes a chance to strengthen connection capacity. Panic becomes a lesson in emotional regulation. And self-doubt becomes a way to rebuild trust in your own mind. And here's the thing, although I frame this series for breakup recovery, the practices are universal. They apply to any of us navigating adversity, whether it's career setbacks, health challenges, or personal loss. So if you want something practical you can come back to every day, check the link below. You'll find the complete PsycheScription series waiting for you. Think of a PsycheScription like a skill prescription, daily practice to strengthen a capacity, not a chemical pill that promises relief but leaves the underlying skills untouched. Skills, not pills. And here's why this matters. I trained in biochemistry, studying the molecules of mood and behaviour. I know the limits of pills. They can support, but they can't replace the developmental work. PsycheScription is about building the psychological muscles life is asking of you. Here's what to do next. First, download the free worksheet linked below, your Heartbreak Recovery Map. It helps you identify which signals you're experiencing and the skills they point to. Second, use the 7-part PsycheScription series. Treat them like vitamins for your psyche. Regular practice builds resilience. Third, if you want the full roadmap, you'll find it in my book, Transform Your Life, the Ultimate Guide to Self-Mastery. And finally, if you're in the middle of heartbreak and need direct support, you can work with me one-to-one. I'd be honoured to walk with you in your most difficult season. You'll find a link to book a session below. Because you're not broken. Heartbreak is not the end. It is a signal calling us to grow. This is PsycheVita. Skills, not pills.